Well, sometimes a lot of people involved in aviation will tell you that the sky up there is the wild blue yonder. Well, as you've been learning, there's lots and lots of rules actually associated with that wild blue yonder. So in this section, we're going to continue on with some of those rules, and we're going to take a look at maximum altitudes. And we do have obstruction clearance requirements. So what are those? One of the big ones that you need to remember is the 400-foot rule. But notice this, in addition to the 400-foot rule, we also have the 100 feet above any building or structure, so long as the aircraft is being operated a distance of less than 200 feet from that building or structure. So I'm going to go over to the whiteboard for just a moment, and sometimes it helps if this is actually drawn out so that you can see what it actually looks like. Okay, so let's start out with our baseline. And our baseline, of course, is going to be the ground. Now, I'm going to put in some terrain here, a single lonely hill. As we know, we can operate our UAVs within 400 feet of the ground. So here's the ground, measure upwards, we come to the 400-foot point. So in this case, that would mean we would have this area here that we could fly in. Now, a lot of people forget that because it's above ground level, this actually follows the terrain. So over here, we would actually have it rising above the hill and maintaining that 400-foot AGL marker. Now, the reason we're given this airspace here is because for piloted manned aircraft, they actually have a rule that tells them that they are supposed to stay 500 feet AGL. So that being the case, we've got this extra little layer here. So they are going to be 100 feet above us, in theory, at all times. Now, when I say that, don't forget that there are exceptions for manned aircraft to this rule. Think of crop dusters. Well, crop dusters got to get down here, they got to get close to the crops and spray them, right? So this 400-foot buffer doesn't always absolutely guarantee you that you're going to have that slice of airspace all to yourself. Next up, let's consider, and what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to erase this 500-foot AGL line for the manned aircraft, because I just want to draw what it looks like for us when it comes to buildings, should we be authorized to work around them. So let's take away this 400 here, just so that I have a little bit more room to draw a building. So here is the building. We'll imagine that there's the world's fastest engineers here. So they put in their building. And this is the building that we hope to get some good footage on. So there we go. So now what the rule becomes is this. Remember, we're allowed to fly up to 100 feet above this particular building. So we'll draw the top of our airspace right there. But we also need to ensure that we stay at least 200 feet horizontally. So as long as we're within that zone, we can go up to 100 feet above the building. There is one final rule that's worth mentioning here that we'll get to in the next slide. And that is, let's imagine that we're flying our UAV and all of a sudden we don't see somebody come up the hill here and suddenly right there. When it comes to people, the rule is this. Suddenly, they have a 100-foot buffer on either side of them horizontally. So that would mean from here, we've got 100 feet. From here, we've got 100 feet on either side. As well, what happens is this extends upwards to an unlimited altitude. So that person suddenly makes an exclusion zone 100 feet horizontally on either side of them and infinitesimally above them. So that has suddenly become an exclusion zone 100 feet either side of any person who enters that area that we're working. Now the exception to that, of course, is a crew member. So we'll head back over to the presentation now.